Hey, how's it? This is Ryan from Disruptarian Radio. It's 4:23 p.m. Hawaiian time, Saturday, March 16th, 2019. Again, this is Ryan spinning some music. A little bit medicated. I'm not feeling all up to the whole show today, so I'm going to play you a little bit of the topics that I wanted to get into. At first, I'll spend about 45 minutes with you, then I'm going to cut out, play some music, and a couple of things in the playlist regarding just this weird liberal divide, this agenda that seems to be dividing us. People like Roseanne Barr, who I thought was wacky for being a Green Party president candidate. Back in 2012, she ran as the Green Party presidential candidate. And she had some good ideas about marijuana, but everything else she thought about was wacky from the way that she portrayed it when she described it. I thought she was weird as hell. And I still think she's weird as hell, but she's converted from hard left to being a President Donald Trump supporter. It's a weird balance of forces, and it seems like one side of those balances is in the media. There's an academic side, people like Thomas Sowell and, a dozen other great economics professors, Milton Friedman and such. And Ron Paul, most certainly. Still listen to Ron Paul to this day. But this weird agenda, this little difference between the sexes and this big feminist war, it's not big, it's like 7% of the population, but it's still growing. It's a fairly significant population of people wearing the pussy hats and doing all this other weird stuff in their marches. But this movie about RBG, about Ruth Bader Ginsburg, let me just play you this small little clip here.
Go in there and let the judges see the Ruth Ginsburg I know.
We're not asking you to change the country. That's already happened without any court's permission.
The word woman does not appear even once in the U.S. Constitution.
Nor does the word freedom, Your Honor.
Wait, what the hell? That's the official trailer for that RBG movie that came out last July. I believe it was July of 2018. Or was it July of 2017? It was recently. Well, I can't see a date on this. But that's a piece of the official trailer for that movie. And they're saying in a court argument between RBG and some Supreme Court justice that the word freedom doesn't show up once in the U.S. Constitution. So, I just go to the First Amendment for that. I look at freedom of speech, and it's actually, I think, the 11th word in the First Amendment of the Constitution. It was written in 1789, long before Ruth Ginsburg was born, I assume. I know she's old, but she's not that old. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but she's a pretty old lady. Certainly not that old. But anyway, here's one of my neighbors, right? I live close to Roseanne Barr, and I thought she was kooky before. I think she's redeemed herself a lot. She is interviewing a guy named Anomaly, I believe. Anyway, they talk for quite a while. I'm only going to play you 5 or 6 minutes of their talk between each other. They make good points, but I want to comment on the points too, because this is a growing concern of Americans. All right. Roseanne Barr and Anomaly.
That's nice.
Not the haters, yeah.
Yeah.
Not the bug-eyed haters.
And I'm here today in my studio with one of my favorite people, one of my favorite guests, Anomaly. Say hi.
Thank you for having me, yeah.
Thanks for coming back. It's always fun to talk to you.
Thank you.
So what are we going to get into today? The Jussee Smollett case? He just got fired. That's what everybody was texting me. They just finally fired him.
Absolutely. And we've all been bringing up you. I don't like to be an eye for an eye. It's like I don't want people, I don't like to take down people for free speech and stuff, but you said a tweet. Yeah. I don't think, knowing you and talking to you, I don't think they ever called you and said, what did it mean? How did you... No. Why did you say that? It was just like, you're out. Yeah. Whereas it wasn't like a free speech thing with him. It was like, you know, felony, staging a hate crime, literally buying supplies, doing a fake letter, starting a political race division in a country where we desperately need to come together. So it's like actual crime and like so much worse.
Somebody said yesterday it's terrorism.
Yeah, and I understand people are weak and emotional, and they take advantage of people, even certain communities that they've been discriminated against. They have real pain. So they use that.
But they never deal with that.
Yeah.
They never fix anything. They just use people.
And the thing is,
I have a bro-in-law that's got a bunch of arrests for terroristic threats and all kinds of giving false information to police to mess with other people. And it just sticks out to me. It's just this hard liberal edge that they pull. They can justify anything. Like, snitching is okay, they say, if such and such exists. Like, I don't like this guy because this guy is blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I just think using the supreme force of the law against somebody, instead of accepting their offer to go box you in the boxing ring, is, very confident or proud. I mean, that's the least honorable thing I can think of, is to deny somebody a fight in a boxing ring, somebody who's just recently gotten in a horrible car accident, that was me, to meet him up in a boxing ring and throw some blows instead of just going back and forth on the internet. I mean, I've said that if I was ever a legislator, I would legalize the duel, because sometimes it gets down to that where it's just got to end one way or the other, and the duel is the way to end it. At least it used to be. Anyway, I'm going to play you some more of this Roseanne Barr and Anomaly interview.
They don't actually care about those things, because sometimes they'll say it's the black community, but if you're a black conservative or a black person like Kanye West who's not even conservative, just talking, they want to ruin you. Where it's like sometimes they'll be like, we love the Jews, you can't say anything about Jews, but then you and Laura Loomer, you stray from the narrative, and then they go hard at you. So
yeah, they do.
It's annoying. It's like, just say you like liberal ideas, or like, don't use communities for your agenda, and then as soon as someone strays from it, you throw them under the bus, because you definitely didn't get the Jewish victim card with your show. Like, they didn't let it, let's listen. Like, they were like, you're gone. Whereas if Jussee was like a Trump supporter, I'm sure his career probably would have been ruined.
Could you imagine if he was white and he said that two black guys beat him up, and can you imagine what would happen to that guy?
I saw someone on TV say, we lie every day, like this is what we do every day. And I'm like, no, we don't. Like, you might lie every day, but some of us try to tell the truth, and I'm sure we all make mistakes. I agree with that. But to be like, that's who we are, and I think that's who they've become in pursuit of like being so great. They've just given up all science, math, all these things that they claim to love. Facts, love and compassion. I used to like that about the left. And me and you came from similar sides, where we always leaned left in 2012, but we were outside the box left. And I think you probably liked the fact that the left seemed to care about people more, maybe. I
thought they did.
I thought so too.
Till I saw the truth.
Yeah. So.
Neither party. I'm telling everyone to just be an independent, because the party.
So back in 2010, well, and long before that, all the way back to 2002, when Ralph Nader ran with Winona LaDuke, that is, as president, and he had a huge coming out for his policies. Most of it for me was this. I made this video. I just combined two clips together, but this is on my X-Cannabis COM, X-Cannabis COM, all together, all lowercase. That YouTube channel. I put this up there when I supported Ralph Nader. So when people, were talking about my conservative history, or one guy in my my extended family, my wife's family, said that I used to vote for George Bush. Just so you know, I have never to this day voted for a Republican candidate, except for Ron Paul in the primaries in 2012. But prior to 2012, I supported Ralph Nader, and I still supported this National Initiative for Democracy to kind of straighten Congress out and put some checks and balances on them. So let me just play you this. This is my video, or the clips that I made of Ralph Nader and This is
Gotta
Billy
help me
Jack
differ.
right
I
here.
don't know what that is. The national initiative.
Well, the initiative basically means that people can write their own laws. And if they get enough signatures on petitions, then it goes on the ballot for all the people to vote on. And if 50% plus one of the people vote for the law, it becomes the law of the land.
So you want this instead of a Congress?
This will belong. No, it'll be as well as a Congress. The Congress can do their work. They can get the laws through. They'll continue the same way they're going on now, through bribery, mostly. But this will be, in addition, this will be a chance for the people themselves to have a direct say in the government.
All right, so I'm just going to play a little bit more until Roseanne asked the question of what do we do, on a nonpartisan level, how do we change the government? I want her to get to this point. It's not verbatim, but it makes a similar connotation. I'll just play you in her own words.
Parties are both just about lockdown of thought, and then you got to parrot their narrative. So you got to be in the middle, and that means no party. And you just choose the candidate that best suits you from whatever party. And Alyssa Milano, I just want to say this about her kind of people that allowed themselves to be used to hurt people. When they do wake up all the way, I'm not going to forgive them. And I don't think any of us should. It's either like walk away now or fuck off, because you're hurting a lot of people, and you're not thinking, and you're just going along to get along, and you thought you'd make a name on hurting other people, and you're not going to get forgiven.
Using women, children, like with the border stuff, if you're not really concerned about the true narrative, like women get raped, and this is a liberal news source, Huffington Post, who referenced a bigger study saying 80% of the young women and girls from Central America are getting raped, 80%. So if you're going to scream and cry and throw everyone under the bus, but your agenda helps that happen, it's like, it really is bad. And I'm starting to see, even with like what's his name, the guy with the KKK blackface, and the Democrat guy, Northam, he's like, we'll resuscitate the baby and we'll talk to the parents and then
we'll kill it.
Yeah, it's like, dude, like at what point, I feel you. And a lot of people are upset. I am upset too, and that's definitely like a line that they've crossed where I'm like, I was never even super pro-life, but it's like I'm nice enough to know that killing a mid-birth baby or whatever is not the play. The real truth of it is, and I'll say it, all that stuff that's happening in the border is about trafficking of children and slaves. People that come in and do rich people's clean their houses and raise their kids for 3 cents an hour because they don't want to pay a decent wage for it. Every single thing, and drugs, and it's all sex crime heavy. And if Democrats can't see that, and they are collusionary in it, it's just more proof of how far they're going to go down, because the more people who are waking up and seeing it, the better. But my friend Kathy O'Brien, she wrote a thing, and everyone should go read it. I'll have to put this in on graphics later, but she's saying that, from the Clintons and the Bushes, it was always about trafficking drugs and mind-controlled slaves, children, MK Ultra victims. It's always been about that. This isn't new. And, there's a lot of darkness in our government, a lot of dark people, and they just pick low-hanging fruit, and human trafficking and drugs are low-hanging fruit, and they're making a killing on it, literally. But, I can't believe that the Democrats, I always say this too, it's not your daddy's Democrat Party, because I was always raised pretty left in my family, and I don't recognize that party at all, which is why.
That's another point I wanted to get to. I was raised Democrat liberal too, and so for most of my life, I supported liberal type of people, especially Ralph Nader and Mike Gravel. And they had this National Initiative for Democracy plan. Let me just play that for you really quick, and then I might get back to some Roseanne. This is Ryan at Disruptarian Radio. You can check us out most every day of the week at 4:20 p.m. Hawaiian time, except for Friday, which we start broadcasting at noon Hawaiian time. And that would be Skinhead Reggae Fridays. Every Friday, all week long. Peace. I'll be right back with you. By the
So
way.
much now to get elected that the congressmen aren't any of them
This is
free.
more Billy Jack.
They belong to the people who
And then it
paid for
gets
their
to Ralph
elections. They
Nader.
don't belong to us at all.
I mean, how many times have you heard someone complaining about something but totally unable to do anything about it?
And besides that, it makes government responsive to the people. I mean, you need an alternative route. If the Congress is bought out on an issue, like they are on nuclear power, for example, you need an alternative route for the people. And when they get mad, there should be a creative response by the people. Think of what would have happened in 1967 and 1968 during the Vietnam War. If the people could have gone and petitioned and put on the ballot a vote against the Vietnam War, we would have ended it in 1968.
We wouldn't have had to have the demonstrations. We wouldn't have had to have the Kent States.
Might not have had to have the war.
It's also going to influence the members of Congress because they like to be on the right side of an issue. And if they know it's a very controversial issue and there's going to be a national initiative if they don't take action, they're going to be more hesitant about it. They're going to say, it's going to make me look like a fool. They're going to be more careful.
So are you endorsing Senator Gravel's national ballot initiative proposal?
Well, I think I preceded Senator Gravel. I believe the binding, excuse me, I think I preceded Senator Gravel. I think a binding national referendum with the proper procedures, which is rooted, according to a number of prominent legal scholars, in our Constitution, sovereignty of the people, in the Declaration of Independence, to be a powerful tool of accountability for elected representatives at the national level in Congress and in the White House. The people having the right and the procedures to vote in laws of their choosing, whether that right is exercised or whether it's simply potential, will revolutionize politics and its responsiveness to the necessities of the American people in the spirit of the Declaration of Independence. We need a national conversation about it. We need it to be debated. We need to start seeing that issue be part of political campaigns at the national, state, and local level. A binding national referendum as the ultimate safeguard for a democratic society when representative government succumbs to corporate power in Washington, D.C.
Thanks very much.
So that's the message I tried to get out back in 2011, 2010, is that when I learned about this National Initiative for Democracy, and my wife supported Senator Mike Gravel and I supported Ralph Nader, they were both working as a team on this National Initiative for Democracy thing. And so now you've heard about it, now you know what it is. And I wanted to mention that first part was from Billy Jack Goes to Washington. That was made a month after I was born in April of 1977. And they talked about a national initiative all the way back in 1977. So this isn't a new thing. This is basically what 26 states of the U.S. states, of all 50 of the states have, is a referendum process for the people to make, to get enough signatures to get a ballot initiative on the ballot, and then to have a vote for it if they get enough signatures. And then those signatures will vote yay or nay on the law, and if it passes, then the government has to defend that right or that law or honor the change. But only 26 states have that. But the proposal is for all 50 states to be able to have a direct referendum of their federal government as well as their local state governments. So all 50 would have what currently only 26 enjoy. So I wanted to play some music, some good Irish music, but let me just make sure I don't have anything left with Roseanne. But actually, I do have a few things. This Jussee Smollett thing, he got hit with 16 more felonies. I think he's got 17 or 18 of them now, and may have one more on the federal level for sending substances to himself to try to play a victim and try to, say somebody is persecuting him because he's the gay Tupac or whatever. Just some silly shit. And this happens so often. They actually have a website to track it called fakehatecrimes.org. So you can check that out, fakehatecrimes.org. Let me play you a little bit more of Roseanne. There was one more point, but it might have been 4 or 5 minutes in. So if it goes that long, I'm just going to switch it to the auto mix. I'm going to play some good music, starting with some Irish.
I walked away because it's like, you guys you're on the wrong side of everything, and you don't look any further than the surface. What they tell you on TV, you buy, you swallow, you defend it. And then when it's proven to be a lie and that you've been MK Ultra'd, they never fess up or apologize or anything else. They just keep on. And that's just evil. It's just evil. There's no other word for it.
I feel you. Even with Obama, I didn't agree with a lot of his foreign or domestic policy, but even he, like with, say, like border stuff, he was like deporting more people than Bush, and even some reports say Trump to the certain point. So he wasn't even that far, even though he was like going further. Obamacare, not a fan of the individual mandate. But since Trump got into office, like they decided to take where Obama was going a little further left doing some stuff. They just like flew off where they don't care about anything anymore. It's nothing like, I wasn't a fan. I was like, oh, Obama, Bush, you know, he's just the guy that's going to be there and he's going to do some stuff. But now it's like, okay, you're not pro-life. Okay, you're pro-choice. What were we talking about? First trimester? There's even clips of left-leaning people where they're like, oh, we don't do third trimester, but now they're openly like, resuscitate the baby, and it's like, it is becoming purely evil. And the drugs on the border from fentanyl, there's enough fentanyl to kill the whole country, and people are dying. We have record number of kids dying from overdoses and suicide, and a lot of it is the drugs and the mind control culture. So it's like, at what point are you just like crushing women and children? I know that's why you're upset. Yeah. I go through phases. I try to be nice sometimes, but it's like you can't just kill babies. And I know people that they're just dying like left and right, friends of friends, just like drugs. And a lot of it's coming from the border statistically. So at a certain point, if you use women and children to act like you care about people, but the true agenda is like hurting women and children, and they don't even want to have a discussion where you could sit down and talk to them and be like, what's your point? But they're like, this is what it is. They use like a fake picture or a situation. They're like, if you would disagree with me, you're racist, you're sexist, you're xenophobic. You were the only one putting discussion out there in that culture, and you had the #1 show. So it's not only like you're breaking the narrative, you're actually doing better than all of what they were doing.
Yeah, put together.
And then they're like, just don't even exist.
So anyway, they hit a couple of points on the head, things that I've recently discussed. I think my last show 7 days ago was about Utah and the heavy suicide rates and the heavy prescription drug usage and overdosage and over-prescriptions and abuse in Utah. Utah doubles those numbers of the national average and is higher than any state around it in those averages, and is climbing in suicides. It is now number 5 overall for suicides, and suicide is the leading cause of death for kids between the age of 11 and 17. So that's just really sad, you know, and it's number 2 for the national average suicide. So it's still high on a national average, but it's number 1 as a leading cause of death for kids 11 to 17. So I am going to continue to broadcast on that quite a bit. I wanted to play you some music though, and then I'm just going to put on the auto mix. But let's see, auto mix. Providence Rio, man of the house.
I wonder if you people really understand how sweet it is to be in love. Are you ready, Lloyd? Yes, Philip. There was a time when I would sit and say that I'll never fall in love again. Now I know, darling, now I know, yes I know how sweet it is to be in love. Since I found you, my whole life has changed, and I'm so happy to love you more each day. Yes, I know, darling, yes, I know, yes, I know how sweet it is to be in love. you people what I have to say. Go find your true love and say the same someday. Say that you know, darling, that you know, like how I know how sweet it is to be in love. Yeah! Oh, yes it is. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes it is.
All right, this next clip is Gloria Alvarez. She's from Argentina, and she's comparing socialism to capitalism in the United States versus South America. She was a politician there, I believe. Anyway, she makes some good points. This is a good discussion about liberty.
Let's talk about what is socialism so that people can understand the difference between socialism and capitalism.
Okay, socialism is an economic and political notion that the government and the public office is way more efficient and intelligent as to control the economy. It has this perception that the bureaucrat in power somehow has way more information than the average citizen in order to, let's say, control prices or administer different businesses, so everything is allowed. You can expropriate, you can take away businesses from different hands, and the government taking control of that and putting price controls, putting quotas, prohibiting to do transactions, subsidies. Well, in Argentina, you couldn't even have dollars because that became a crime. I mean, there's a lot of regulations. And the notion is that you are doing it for the common good. So what happens in reality is that the individual, which is the most important of all minorities, gets their life, their private property, and their liberties completely violated in the name of this common good that, of course, never arises, never comes. We have seen socialism fail in every continent of the planet, but still, when there's ignorance and when there are people who resent the way of competition or free market ideas, then it can arise.
So essentially, the thing that most people don't realize is that what socialism does is it substitutes the judgment of the individual citizens, and it takes their judgment away and gives it to a bureaucrat.
Yeah.
And the question that people have to ask really is, does a bureaucrat in Washington or the Tegucigalpa, I ruined that capital, of Guatemala, does he know more about what bread or what donuts or what whatever shirts or any kind of product the people want and at what price? This bureaucrat doesn't know anything about all the industries that are in their country.
No.
Right. So they're going to make mistakes because even if they are the most kind-hearted people in the world, angels, they don't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So, whereas in a capitalist system, the baker who is successful for 1 year after another year, 10 years, 20 years, he already knows what the market wants, what the people that buy donuts and bread want, and what price they're willing to pay.
Exactly.
So he can tailor that service to the people efficiently instead of a bureaucrat making the decision, using the capital and squandering it because he's ignorant.
Absolutely. The efficiency of the market consists as we can use things that we could never build for ourselves. It's learn to read and iPencil, this idea that we're using a microphone that I couldn't build, I'm using shoes that I couldn't build. So if we understand that through the market we get stuff that we couldn't build by our own hands, why is it so difficult for us to understand that a bureaucrat in Washington doesn't have that information as a whole? And it's not only good intentions. The problem is you give them absolute power. And there's no way, it doesn't matter how good intentioned you are, that with absolute power, you won't absolutely be corrupted. And that is what ends up happening with socialist leaders. That's why you see that Hugo Chavez and his friends lived like kings. Fidel Castro and his friends lived like kings, because it's what George Orwell described in Animal Farm. Once the pigs get rid of the human, but they are in power, then everything is for them. The only ones who can transact and be in the market and have liberties are this small group at expense of the greatest nation, which, if you come to think about it, cannot be in the best interest of common good.
Absolutely. It never results in the common good, and I think you've expressed the argument very well. So the other thing that happens when you transfer the power to the bureaucrat is that if the bureaucrat makes a mistake and allocates capital incorrectly, his bank account is not affected, right?
No, of course not, because there's this other notion, at least in Latin America, it's the notion of free. We get free education, we get free health, we get free food. Nothing is free in this world. I mean, every cent that goes in the government is because someone else first sweated with their own eyebrows, and it's their production. So every cent that goes in the government, of course, once they allocate the different resources, their personal banking account won't be touched, as you say, but there is a loss. There is the
But under capitalism,
cost.
if you make a bad investment and you don't satisfy the wants and needs of the customers, you lose your own money, right?
You lose your own money. The loss is individual. So what this does is that it only expands the responsibility, it expands the loss, so no one knows who is actually responsible for it, and then you get in debt in the nation, and no one can actually do something about it. So the first notion that we have to take out of our heads is that nothing is free, and it is really unethical from politicians and civil society leaders to be saying we demand free stuff. There's no such thing as that.
Yes, the difference between a child and a grown-up is that a grown-up knows that you have to earn the things that you want, and the child expects to get them for free.
Yeah.
And so these people are basically at a child level when they think they're just going to get manna from heaven, because they're ignoring the basic fact of reality that you have to earn what you want in life. I would say not only in the economic sphere, but in every sphere.
Definitely.
So in personal relations, in friendships, in love relationships, whatever, you have to earn the love. You have to earn the money. You have to earn the knowledge.
Yeah.
You have to make the effort to understand, like you have, all these more or less complex political theory ideas. So I congratulate you for having done that. Now, there may be one thing I'd like to cover besides that, which is there's another way in which you can bring in the socialism. It's the one which is threatening the United States, which is you can increase the taxes so that the government takes more of the money and spends more of the money that was earned by the citizens. And so each time you do that, there's less and less freedom, because you cannot spend, allocate, or invest your own money the way you think you should, because the government already took it away from you.
Yeah, that is actually the way that you start implementing socialism of the 21st century via a democratic election, because you cannot come and with violence expropriate. That comes later. The first thing you do is increment taxes and also public employment, because what you do with this new money is that you create more offices, more public offices, so you start like buying allies. You have more citizens working for the system, so it's more difficult to rebel from it, because they are benefiting in the short term from the sacrifice that you're doing in the long term.
Yeah, you create a constituency to support this socialistic movement, say like the government unions, where they promise them great benefits and higher wages and better pension plans than anybody could afford. And why does the government permit that? Because, well, these people are going to vote for them. So anyway, Gloria, you are a great speaker.
Thank you very
much. And considering that English is your second language, you've done a great job.
Thank you very much.
By the way, I speak Spanish fluently.
Ah, eso es increíble, qué bueno.
but I had to do.
Socialism of the 21st century via a democratic election, because you cannot come and with violence expropriate. That comes later. The first thing you do is increment taxes and also public employment, because what you do with this new money is that you create more offices, more public offices, so you start like buying allies. You have more citizens working for the system, so it's more difficult to rebel from it because they are benefiting in the short term from the sacrifice that you're doing in the long term.
Yeah, you create a constituency to support this socialistic movement, say like the government unions, where they promise them great benefits and higher wages and better pension plans than anybody could afford. And why does the government permit that? Because, well, these people are going to vote for them. So anyway, Gloria, you are a great speaker.
Thank you very
much. And considering that English is your second language, you've done a great job.
Thank you very much.
By the way, I speak Spanish fluently.
Ah, eso es increíble, qué bueno.
Thank you. But I had to do
I'm sorry from the bottom of my heart, yeah. This little time I'm gonna love you, won't hurt you, won't hurt you.